Allie. Join me as I go over how to do nice, long, multiple size bead fringe earrings. We have a bunch of videos doing different fringe, but with summertime coming, thought it's nice to do that refresher and to go over thread, bead size, how you know how many beads you're going on to create that nice, longer triangle. Gather up your supplies, which are listed below the video in the description, and that gets you links back to our site. Let's get started. All right, so let's talk fringe earrings. I love long fringe, and I'm going to explain to you kind of what thread to use and kind of some of the ground basis. So to begin with, you can see I love really long fringe earrings. And I'm going to be doing brick stitch, and I'm doing a multi-step brick stitch. So we're doing 3 beads at a time. Make it go a little faster, and that's also going to make our triangle shape here a little bit longer. If we use one at a time, it becomes shorter and it becomes more of that regular right angle triangle. Number one thing that you're going to want to think about is your thread. So I'm using size 6 dragon thread here in the crystal color. The reason I'm using 6 is because it's thin, but it still has a little bit of shape for my brick stitch, so I don't need to switch thread. If I did not have heavier beads on the bottom of my fringe here, then I might consider actually using the size 5 for the thread. I very rarely use the size 5, which is the thinnest of the thread, unless I am doing a fringe that is just seed beads and doesn't have any weight at the bottom. Since this has weight at the bottom, I'm fine to use the size 6 for both the fringe as well as the brick stitch section. If I'm just doing all seed beads, no heavier beads or crystals or anything at the bottom, then often what I'll do is the brick stitch portion in a size 6 and switch some thread for a size 5. Again, I've chosen to use heavier beads at the bottom here so I can use the size 6 for the whole earring. To begin, we are going to start off here with our baseline, which is actually a ladder stitch, and then we're going to do the fringe and then the brick. So it's kind of working our way from the bottom down and then back up. To start, I have a stop bead on about 4 feet of that size 6 beading thread. I'm going to begin with a collection of 3 because we're doing 3 drop and 3 beads for my ladder. 8, 11, 8. I'm going to do another 8, 11, 8 and let that drop down next to my stop bead. Having that drop down next to my stop bead, then I'm going to go back up through the first 3 beads. 8, 11, 8. Not through the stop bead. And that's going to get those 2 beads to kind of sit right next to one another and form that ladder. Bringing the camera in a little bit closer here, you're going to see that we're going to go back through our last row of our ladder stitch as well too. So kind of in a circle and going in through that last section. From here, we're going to do another ladder stitch. So another grouping of our beads. Down through the beads that we just came out of. So down through that last one. And then up through the beads that we just put on. That is your ladder stitch. Currently we are 3 high and I'm 3 rows wide. I want to get to 5. So I'm going to do 2 more where I'm going in 8, 11, 8, going into the opposite side of the one that our thread is still coming out of. Pulling that thread through there nice and tight. That'll get the next 2 or the next 3 that we just put on to kind of lay beside. And then to pull them in tight, you're going to go back through those 3 that you just added. Circling around the thread here. Nice tight pull, that's 4, and we're going to get a 5th one in. Going back through our beads that were already there, and then back through the beads that were added. Now, I'm going to be doing brick stitch on the top, and where my thread is coming out, I'm actually going to make that the bottom. For the bottom, we're just going to keep a nice simple pattern while we're learning and do 5 of our 11 seed beads, followed by a tublet bead, followed by another 11 and an 8. Then I'm going to go in and put on my drop. Smaller side to the top, bigger side to the bottom. From here, I'm going to do 3 beads, which is called a traditional picot trim here, and go back up through those beads that I just added. Not going through the seed beads that I just added, those 3, but up those whole line then of the crystals, the tublet and the seed beads, back up through my ladder stitch row. So back up through those last 3 beads. Once you're there, you're going to pull your thread and needle. Make sure not a lot of extra thread and needle are showing at the bottom here. Pull those beads down. Make sure to pull them nice and tight. And what will happen with that picot trim is you'll get a little triangle of seed beads there at the bottom. From here, we're making another bridge thread, which we'll talk about as we go to the next section of learning, which will be that brick stitch. But now we're going to come down through row number 2, and we're going to do a second fringe drop. We're going to do a traditional style where we add beads onto the initial row. So we originally had 5. We're going to put those 5 on, and then we're going to add 2 more to get to 7. From there, I'm going to do my tublet, my 11-0, my 8-0 seed bead, and then another one of my drops. At the bottom of the drop, 1, 2, 3 seed beads, dropping that down towards the base. Once I'm there, I'm going to skip over the 3 beads that I just added because that's my picot trim. That's going to hold the beads in place. And then I'm taking my needle back up through all of my beads here, up through my tublets, and up through my seed beads. When I come out the top, I'm going to continue through that last row of ladder stitch that my thread was coming down. Nice tight pull, and you're going to tighten up so you don't see any extra thread. Take your thread and needle, go down through that 3rd row of your ladder stitch. Once you're down the 3rd row of the ladder stitch, you're going to increase from 5, 7, and now you're going to do 8. After that, we're going to downgrade, doing the same thing, going back from our 5, 7, 8, 7, and 5. So you're going to end up with 5 of your fringe hanging down from the ladder stitch. Want to learn how to become a jewelry making expert? With Potomac Beads Jewelry Making Kits, you can create unique and customized bracelets, earrings, necklaces, and pendants. Every kit uses only premium materials and is hand-packed in the USA. Whether you're new or you've been crafting for years, these kits provide an immersive experience allowing you to create beautiful projects with ease. Visit PotomacBeads.com/kits today or click on the link in the description below. So after going up the last fringe here, and you can see that last little picot trim, we are going to go up and we are going to continue that 3 drop to get that nice long triangle shape. And we are going to, just like the ladder stitch, I wanted to go over that you don't need to do it 3 drop. I have other videos too because I love making this on creating the fringe earrings. You can do 1 rather than 3 beads. I think it's easier to learn with the 3 beads, and that's usually why I do that in videos. But if you'd rather have just 1 bead line, you can certainly do that as well too. Here at the top right after, we're going to do another collection of 3. And one of the things with this video that I think is important to learn is when you have smaller beads versus bigger beads and the bridge threads here, how do you deal with that? So we're going to move the stop bead out of the way, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bridge threads. Now in our sample piece, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of our next row, 5 of the one before it, 6 of the next one. Normally when you're doing brick stitch, it's going to get shorter. So we have 5 here, and we would normally have 4. Because we're using smaller beads, we're going to share some bridge threads. Meaning normally when I put on my 2 groups of beads here, I would skip over to bridge thread number 2, but I'm going right underneath bridge thread number 1, having all 6 of those beads on. Moving that stop bead off a little bit to the side, I'm putting 6 beads because I have 2 rows of my brick stitch. Brick stitch always starts out with the first 2 rows being put on and then a single row after that. After going underneath those bridge threads and connecting to the threads right there, I'm going to go back up through my second set of 3, giving a nice tight pull that puts those 2 beads there. Now a correction that you can do is go back through number 1, go underneath that same bridge thread, back up, back down through row number 2, back up. I'm not really going to worry about that. If it sits a little bit on an angle, I don't care. 3 beads go on. I'm going to go to the next bridge thread. So we shared the first bridge thread with 2, and we're going to share the last bridge thread with 2. In the middle here, we're putting on our 3 beads, sewing underneath the bridge thread. And when I sew under the bridge threads, I try to make sure that I'm sewing underneath all of them. So if there's multiple threads there, which there are because we did our fringe, you want to sew under all of them. next group of 3 beads, because we're doing our brick stitch 3 high, underneath the next set of threads that are the bridge threads, back up through the 3 beads. You can see there I wanted to do 2, and then I'll get through my 1, going back through those beads. Nice tight pull. So it gives the same appearance almost as a ladder stitch where the beads are facing upward. Here I'm doing my 3rd one here, and I'm going to go to the last bridge thread, or my 4th one rather. Actually 5th one, sorry. Back up through those 3 beads. And then once again, I'm going to share that same bridge thread. So we shared the first and the last 2 times. Going through there. Still trying to go toward the outside area so that this bridge thread on the outside, or the thread going over the bridge thread, sits to the left of the one before it. Once you're out through those 3 beads, you're going to notice that that is your first brick stitch, catching on to those bridge threads. Now, there's bridge threads here as well. We did 6 rows, so you're going to have 5 bridge threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you're looking at those 5 bridge threads, you can easily think, okay, if I'm doing another set of 11-0, I'm going to have 4 groupings instead of 6 because I have 5 groupings instead of 6 because I have 5 bridge threads to go on to. However, we're switching back to the smaller bead in the middle with the bigger beads on the side. So we are going to have 4 instead of 5. And how do you know that? You basically just do it based on feel. Go in and kind of see where they sit and how they line up because you have that bigger bead with the smaller bead. I'm going to skip over 1 and 2 to that second bridge thread and go underneath that. And then I'm going to go back up through my second set of beads, which is 8, 11, 8, mirroring the one that we did on the ladder stitch. Doing this again, 8, 11, 8, going in and kind of looking where I need to go. I'm going to skip the next bridge thread and go to the one after that, just because otherwise it's going to get too crowded in the middle there. Go back up through, nice tight pull, last one here. If I tried a 5th one, which I did during the first one, so it's kind of nice because I trial your pattern for you. When I did the 5th one, it just stuck out too far on the side. And I still want that triangle look. So if you get something that's too wide in any one of the sets, it starts to not look like a triangle. So that's how we know 4 wide was the way to go. 4 wide fits right above that 6 wide. And now we're switching again back to our 11s. Because we're switching back to our 11s, we're not going to do 1, 2, 3 rows. We're going to share again. So this one has 5 rows. We're going to do 2 to the mid, or 2 to the first one, 1 and 2. Again, going in with your 2 rows first for your brick stitch. So I'm picking up my 3 beads and then my next row of 3. I'm going to go into that first bridge thread and underneath it. Let the beads fall over themselves. Make sure that's not twisted there, which I just corrected, and then back up through the set of 3. Nice tight pull. There you go. I'm going to do another one where I go through the center and then 2 more on the outer one. Now that I'm done my row of 5 seed beads, I have 4 bridge threads, but because I'm going up to the next size of bead, I'm only going to use 3. I have 2 of my rows on there. I'm going to go back up through that second row, pull nice and tight, drop in my last one, and go to the last bridge thread. So I skipped over bridge thread number 4. Pull that nice and tight, and you can see that looping effect going for the bridge thread. And now looking again, I'm going to have 4 of my 11-0s that go right over top of the 8s. Going over into the into the first row there, that first bridge thread. I'm going to do 2 rows on that first bridge thread and 2 rows on the second. Up through the 3. And then once again, a 3rd row. Going through bridge thread number 2. Back up through the 3. If your beads ever fall off, it's because by accident you didn't catch on to the bridge thread underneath, or you sewed back under it when you were going in. So here's where I'm saying I want to go to the left of that bridge thread, kind of sewing. You can see I'm trying to sew on an angle there, pulling that over towards the left so it stays to the left-hand side, and then back up through those 3 beads. And I always pinch like this because I find it easier to get them in a line. All right, now coming out the top, we're going to change it up a tiny bit. We are going to go in and use our wire guard and our 8/0 seed beads and just do a grouping of 2 beads to create that little triangle. To create that little triangle, of course, I need 4 more beads out. We are going to go in and do our 11 in the middle with our 8s on the side. Put those 2 on. I'm skipping over from the first bridge thread to the last bridge thread. So there's 3 bridges here. We're going first, we're skipping over to the 3rd one. Going back up through row number 2. And that's going to sit a tiny bit on an angle just because of the space, and we're totally cool with that. From here, we're using an 11/0 up through the wire guard. If you wanted it to be a full triangle, you would use 3. Going down through the wire guard on the opposite side, adding 1 more 11/0, and down through those 3 beads there. Now I'm going to reinforce it, and I'm going underneath bridge thread number 1. Going underneath bridge thread number 1 allows me to make sure that this sits a little bit more on the angle, and I'm going to go back up through, and then that's going to give me an opportunity to go back through the wire guard and reinforce, making sure my thread stays in the track of the wire guard. So the wire guard has a little channel that you want your thread to stay in, right there along the top as you pull. You don't want it to pop out. Now all I'm going to do after those 2 rows is sew down through this right side here. You can see I'm pretty much just able to sew right down on an angle, popping my needle out in the exact place that I need to, which is where the stop bead is. I'm going to pull off that stop bead, separate it, grab these 2 thread ends, tie them together right over left, left over right in that square knot fashion. I'm going to take the needle and thread that's still on my needle, and I'm going to sew down into the ladder stitch there, pulling tight to get the knot to go between my beads. And now I'm going to trim these 2 threads and burn the edges off. Last thing to do is just to put on your ear wires to finish up these long fringe earrings with multiple size beads. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these multi-bead fringe earrings. I love the length of them, and they're perfect again with summer dresses and that long look. If you do need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. There's links there to get back to our website. Also, if you want to check out other brick stitch fringe earrings, you can search on the site, and we have lots of videos with different patterns for different size beads. As always, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.